welcome, Rose, to the Seattle Network. Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm so happy to be here, C.
Gosh, how long have we known each other for?
I mean, it's been a while, right? It really has. And, you know, when I shared the live with my community on LinkedIn, I mean, it's true. Like you and I, like we connected instantly,
Yeah.
um, you know, in our group. And yeah, we've been together ever since. And it's been pretty
Oh.
amazing.
Yeah, and I love how we connected as well in how we really understood each other. I think that was the biggest thing, and it was
100%. Yeah.
the corporate side. It was like definitely about the corporate side of you understanding how things work at that level, the corporate side of my end, how things get moved around, certain processes in place that are required to communicate every step of the way to be able to get to the quality output that you want to get to.
Right.
And I think that's where we really play ping pong since then.
Right. And yeah. Absolutely. And then taking everything and like really applying it to not just our businesses, but everything that we communicate out to, you know, clients, to our communities. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Rose, president and founder of Rose Mills, influencer. Thank you so much. We are talking today about three very important topics. I'm very excited to talk with you about them. I think there's a lot that you can articulate your point of view. I just want to be able to mirror you to our shared network, because the way how you talk about it, I swear every single corporation needs to hire you because it is at that tiered level that I am so used to. And so that is my compliment to you of and everyone who is on maybe the startup side and the ecosystem who may not have much marketing and advertising knowledge, or maybe they're so in R&D and in the product side of it, they just don't even have the capacity to think about it. The way how you talk about it is so refreshing, and I think they need to hear from you. So the three areas we're talking about is the business owner's game of visibility. We're going to talk through targeted marketing and positioning, and social media, and the medical community as an example of a niche that are very technical, which I think relates very well with my network too, who are super technical. And they don't really think in the business that is necessary as part of the rocket that they're building to launch.
Right. It's that mindset that you and I talk about. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I do have to give a shout out to, you know, our corporate careers, right? I mean, it taught us everything that we know. And for me, 20 plus years of experience in advertising and marketing and developing strategic brand partnerships. I mean, that's everything to me. That, you know, taking everything that I learned and being able then to bring it to my own business, right? It's like, I'm not someone who says, hey, I had viral success on social media and I grew my followers, you know, 10 times over with a viral video, and I'm going to show you how to do it. I mean, that's not what we're talking about here. And businesses especially should not be listening to that. And there's, you know, a lot of that out there. I'm often asked, like, who are my competitors? It's pretty much everybody. Anybody can be on social media, and anybody can grow followers, and everybody can, you know, go viral. But it's the people who, you know, again, this shout out to corporate, where you learn how to be very strategic and how to develop brands and businesses, which is what I say that I do, right, for a living with my agency. Is we are a builder of brands and businesses utilizing social media. So, so yeah, I mean, again, you know, our connection is pretty strong because of that.
Yeah, and I just want to double tap on the corporate side of it versus the influencers and how they made money and how they invested money into marketing. I think that is a super important part to contextual grounding before we dive in, so they understand the point of view and perspective. Now, what you understand is that you understand the players that a marketing team was developed and how they worked with the rest of the corporation, and how you play with the advertising agency side of it, and who and how you talk to them, communicate with them, work with them, work together with the budget and such. So that's kind of where we have that shared understanding. And that was part of the business unit itself. It is something that was not new. It was almost like a well-oiled machine, and not the well-oiled machine part was the ideas, right? And because that's what you're really hiring an ad agency is for the ideas, something new. And the marketing team is really the ones who are saying, hey, we have to be talking about this and this and this and this and positioning ourselves like this way in the market. How can we do that? And then you work together in that partnership, and that strategic partnership to be able to move forward. But there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of it. This isn't a one-man band kind of situation so when you're able to have all these different skills and all these different experiences of the processes, you can tell right away. You and I both can see right away how a operator understands, like, for example, in a startup or in a SME kind of enterprise, we understand and can see right away how they treat their marketing department, how they treat their dollars, and how they show up in the world and show up to their competitors and also investors too, and how they recruit talent. And so you and I have that eye, which I think is super important to talk about going into this game of visibility, because yes, we do know what that on, the Fortune 500 level. And a lot of the objection I would hear in startup is like, wow, we're not there yet, see. That's not our thing. But like you just said, your competition is everyone, because social media is free right now. And everyone has a phone. And attention is the currency. So I'm going to throw it to you, Rose, and going into the mindset shift in this game of visibility, because a business owner is really someone that can sell not to an empty room, right? They're talking to the right people. So if you're complaining about certain things, if things aren't going your way, maybe you're not doing the right things. So I'll leave it to you on that one to go off of.
I mean, that was perfect. And thank you for teeing that up for me, because I mean, it leads so perfectly into, and it's just something I feel so passionately about, right? It's that visibility for businesses is, I mean, we've been saying it every year, right? It's really important, but there is no better time than now, primarily because, I mean, what's going on, right? So, our world keeps changing all the time. And what is happening right now is that this traditional approach to search, to being discovered, right? So you're searching is changing. Hello, AI, right? I saw a video from Gary Vaynerchuk recently where he addressed a crowd and asked them how many people are who use Google AdWords, for their businesses. And pretty much everybody stood up in the room. How many people are on AI? Pretty much everybody stood up in the room. But what he said was that even the 40, 50, 60-year-olds that were in the room are using AI, right? So he, and I do value his word, he is saying that the game of search will fundamentally change within the next 7 years, right? So you have to find a way to be discoverable. And then on the other hand, when you look at social media, the younger generations are changing the way that you search, and their search is primarily happening on social media, right? I mean, it's like Gen Z is 25% less likely to use Google search in their search. And then like 48% of Gen Z and 35% of millennials prefer search or prefer social media as their search tool. And when you think about the way that, we use or we search for businesses, I mean, my primary really is Instagram. I go directly to Instagram to see if the business is on Instagram, because to me, that tells me they care about their community. And so they want to be where their community is, where their audience is. So like, that's everything right now. It is going to change. You can't just create content and put it up on your website and expect people to find it. Like, that's what Gary Vaynerchuk is saying. That is changing. And as, this younger generation continues to leverage social media for their search, right? You have to be prepared for that. And so it doesn't matter what business, it's any business. And even those businesses that say, well, I'm pretty established, I get referrals, I don't need to be on social media, it is going to change. Your tech founders, startups, you have to create visibility in the marketplace right now, because if you don't, you're going to be overlooked. And I know we'll talk about the medical community coming up, but I saw it, it's happening there. And to be able to help that particular industry is pretty phenomenal, what you will see that goes on just on social media. And we're talking organic. This isn't even that, push marketing where you're doing, advertising and promotions. This is pull. You're pulling in people, and you're doing that through relevant content. So with social media, then say you decide, okay, let's be on social media, or you're on social media. If you're there and just posting content, right? You are basically, and frustrated by it, I'm sure, or kind of over it, like, oh my God, what am I going to post today? Or, I can't stay on social media. I don't have time for it. You're there because you're in this mindset of a user, a person who uses social media, as opposed to thinking about your business as a marketer, right?
Yeah.
You have to market your business. You have to be there so people can discover you, so people can engage with you and get to know you. And then you're building trust with them, right? And that's the only way that they're going to convert and want to, to work with you. So if you remove yourself from this mindset of being a user, you will pull yourself away from, oh my God, what am I going to post today? All I want are more followers. I really want to go viral so I can get more followers quickly, right? To a mindset of, I want a strategic plan that is going to elevate my brand and business on the most relevant platforms and create a community who is going to trust me. And you're dedicated to being there every step of that person's journey, the customer journey, right? Awareness, consideration and intent, and conversion. You're there every step of the way. But what is happening right now is, if you're viewing social media as, okay, it'll be easy to be there because there's so many platforms and there's billions of people there. What else is also there? Tons of content. So like, you're competing with all of this content, right? So it's
all the noise.
Yes, all of the noise. So how are you going to stand out? So back to what is happening in our world in terms of discoverability, how you change that is through relevant content. And I know, again, people say, just create relevant content. And sometimes you're kind of like, okay, relevant content, of course. But really understanding what relevant content is and how you can create that all starts by knowing your message, right?
Yeah.
Like that is everything. When you know your message, when you know what it is, what you want people to know about you, right? And who you're speaking to, and why you're speaking to them, how much you understand what they're going through as they go through their journey to ultimately land someplace or with someone that they trust, right? When you understand all of that, you're able then to just kind of start sharing stories, right? Content that then helps you be discoverable on social media, people start gravitating towards you. They start liking you more and more. They start telling more people, and those people tell more people. And that's how you start building community. But it always starts with your brand message, and brand positioning. And I mean, it's just a simple step to kind of take a step back and kind of take a look at that. And even when I do short workshops, I mean, I did a spotlight for 5 women yesterday morning, and it was just some simple questions to help kind of guide them on the things that they want to be known for, right? What are some of the most amazing characteristics about you? What are the things that you love that you want people to know about you, to get to know you? And it's really just, starting with that, personal, professional, whatever that is. And you take that and then you start building content around that. But you also have to know, your target audience. You have to know who you're speaking to. You can't just say, well, I pretty much, can, I can talk to anybody, or this
Post
applies.
and pray.
Yeah, this applies
Yeah.
to pretty much anyone, really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's that saying, that if you're speaking to everyone, you're actually speaking to no one. Yeah.
Yep. Okay,
So-
wait, hold on. So, Rose, we went through so much, and
sorry.
I want to be able to highlight some of the things that you're saying, because visibility, right, is the main thing. So visibility is
absolutely
huge. And it's like, if people don't even know what you're selling, what you're doing, who you are, and what you're saying is, to be visible, you need to be discoverable. If you are not being able to be searchable, AI is going to bring up something else. One. Number two is going to bring someone else. And number three, using social media as if it was Google search is maybe a different way to think about it if
Right.
that's not how you're using it. And the example of Instagram is maybe your demographic. So for your example, might be the demographic of Instagram, for example. Maybe the tech startups is more, Reddit, for example. They search on Reddit and they're trying to look at like, what's the best tool for this kind of thing?
Right.
What's everyone using? And but I think a great example of maybe an Instagram or what we're seeing happening in real time is Blue Sky. Because Blue Sky, a lot of engineers and a lot of the tech side has really kind of moved over to Blue Sky. And
Right.
what I'm seeing at the moment is, and not only that, just like even designers and stuff like that, they're all kind of like moving there. And like it's a very interesting place right now, at least how I'm observing it, because a lot of them are using it as an end user, like a place to, like, as if it was like Facebook 101 again. Kind of thing.
Right.
But also, who else is also moving to Blue Sky is also the brands. It's also companies and businesses. So it's almost like just seeing a social media place start up again. And these professionals who are on it, at one time, and there's I'm even seeing it now. It's like they're like, this is not the opinion of my business or wherever like that. But then, so they kind of want like a private place in the public space almost. But going back to branding about being visible, if that's what they remember you as, and that's your personal brand, and not understanding the capital value of personal branding and how you're associating that way to mirror your professional skill sets at the highest level that you can possibly provide value in that way publicly as well, and to your friends and family and community, whoever. To be discoverable, it is really important that you have the messaging that you're saying, because if you are selling lettuce and you're talking about apples,
Who's going to know that you are, this expert lettuce grower? Like,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's what you're saying is 100% true. And it doesn't matter what platform, right? You can be on
Yes.
all the platforms, and thinking that, what you're saying by just posting is what people want to hear. It's really not. If you don't know your message, right? if you don't know your message and who it's for, you might be wasting your time on some of these platforms. So, you know, like
And
TikTok.
that's the identifier.
Yeah,
I think this is what we're saying. It's like this, for anyone who's listening, this is how you can catch yourself.
Right.
If you are an end user or you're in business and you're marketing your business, and you can catch yourself when you're using each platform.
Right.
And I want to double click on the social media platforms and how there's multitudes of it, and the website part that you're saying. Because what we know in corporate is there's a difference between owned assets
right.
and assets we rent.
Right.
Social media platforms, all of them, like about TikTok, for example,
owned, yeah.
they're not owned. So do you want to break that down a little bit from your point of view on how to articulate how the difference between an owned asset that we take care of and we invest in? Also, we still have to invest in the rented asset, and it's more about the audience, so that if something does shut down and that channel, that distribution channel shuts down, you still can connect with your people.
Right. So, and that's actually an excellent question, C, because I mean, gosh, we saw what happened this past weekend, you know, with TikTok, and how it was dark for a little over 12 hours. You know, the amount of people who were freaking out over that because of all of their content that was on that platform, but more importantly, their communities were on that platform, right? And so those communities, people who trusted them, were all gone in a matter of a second, right? So an earned asset, or an owned asset, your media owned, yes, website, email list, anything that you have that is not on a third-party platform, right? That you own is, and I do say this. I mean, website content. I mean, websites are still extremely important. You need a website. You can't get around that. But it's the content that you're creating to be on your website. You have to also have other ways of being discoverable in addition to that, right? So the platform, social media, is not an owned asset. So the content that you're creating for social media could pretty much start on as an owned asset, right? Or an owned platform. So, say you're writing a blog, your blog lives on your website. That content is you're taking snippets of that content or pieces of that content, and you're putting it into your social media posts, right? But you
even
still
starting there that people don't do
content. Yeah. So it's still
work that has already been done.
Right. So it's like, so just think of it that way. Do not put all your eggs in one basket on social media. And that's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is just being prepared for what is happening and how people, where people are and how they're discovering content, right? So that you can make yourself visible and be there when they're discovering content.
The top of funnel game.
Right.
Because you can't keep on, like you need to have multiple customers to be able to have a sustainable business. And if there's a niche that you can start with, and then another niche, and then another niche, and then you're able to find the positioning, it's like trial by fire, right? And so I think it's like, especially with startups who change their positioning and messaging all the time, because they got to figure out, like, maybe it's the inexperience on their side. Maybe, it's not exactly market ready yet. Maybe the trends have kind of changed. Maybe, all these different factors are a part of it, but they're never going to be able to know, how close are they unless they try. And I think what we're saying here is, like, you got to figure out what is happening in the market and what, today, what is happening in the marketplace? What are they looking for? What are they searching for? What is the difference that in the demographics that are used by each platform as well?
Right. It's the simple, who, what, where, when, why, how. Right? I mean, it really is that simple. And so
stupid simple.
Yeah, yes. And really, I mean, I know we're talking about marketing here, but this is this is marketing, and marketing at its easiest, right? So all you have to do is, so yes, know your message. What do you want to be known for, right? It's like who you are, what your business is, who you're for, again, all of those characteristics. But it's also about knowing your audience. And you're right, as your business changes or grows, you're going to see, your niche change or develop, right? I mean, it happened to me. I'm 5 years into my business, and gosh, all of a sudden this past year, I saw, my specific market and who I was going, where I was going to live and who I was going to be, speaking to. And it's pretty amazing. It can be scary at first to get, to double down on a niche, but you're going to get discovered so much more quickly, and people are going to want to, get to know you and potentially, work with you so much more quickly because they know you're speaking specifically to them. That's that relevant content, that I'm talking about. So yeah, it's know your message, know your audience, but it's also knowing your vision, right? This is something that we all kind of tend to overlook, right? Because we're so focused on selling and, in our business and, so reaching the right people. But why are you in this? What are you in it for? Right? What's your vision? When you know that, and you also put that front and center, right? That is your reminder of why you're on this journey, why you're doing what you're doing. It's okay to say, I want to be CEO of my company and, and be here in, 5 years or whatever that vision is. Keep that vision front and center. That is a key part of your overall marketing too. And then all of that like helps you create content, right? So it's like all those things that you want people to know about you, your business, what you do, who you do it for, how you do it, what your solution is, why it's the best solution. Think of it as like start just writing short stories about all of that. That's what becomes your content. And you can take that and make it long form content and make it live, in a blog on your website. And you can take pieces of that and start creating, social media captions from that. Or you can put it into a presentation, or you can put it into a post on, on Reddit for, for discussion and conversation, whatever that is, right? Like but it all starts with who you are, your brand, and your message. And it's a beautiful thing. It really is. And and I tell you, it makes the process 1,000 times easier, and especially for social media, because now you're starting to see you've got all this great content and you're creating this connection and you're building this community, right? And it's this community who wants more and more from you. They can't get enough of it. And, I've seen it happen so like I said, this niche that has started to develop in my business and where I'm kind of going is this medical community. Who would ever think that doctors, especially doctors, in a specific specialty, would need to be on social media, would need to create visibility where they're discovered? Well, visibility is probably so much more critical for them now than it's ever been, because people have a choice on who they're going to see for care. And there's research and, just like you, I'm a research data person. Like you got to back it up with data, right? You can't just kind of say things, and expect people to believe you. But research shows that patients are online, like 70-80% of people are online looking for information on doctors. They need to feel, or they need to like feel this trust with a doctor, especially if they're undergoing, a major procedure. And so like nearly 80% of people say that they look online for information on, on physicians. And if they're not there, they're moving on to the next. And it doesn't matter if a doctor was recommended by their primary doctor, right? I mean, if they're not seeing something about that physician there, they're moving on. They want to see that credibility, and they want to.
I'm literally laughing because I feel like you've been with me on when I've been selecting my as well.
Right.
Because literally, if I don't even see a face, I move on.
Right.
Like, I don't even care of all the initials of their acronyms and all that kind of stuff. I don't care because I know there's going to be someone else with that.
Right.
And so, and it's not about all the stars either. It's more about, do I have all of the information of what they're practicing? Like, it's just, it's professionalism. I don't know how else to say it. Like, someone, like, yes, we can talk about like all of the jargons, but at the end of the day, I think it's just professionalism. It's how you show up. And even on, for example, on Reddit, where you have different cities and stuff like that, people are asking, hey, you know, in this suburb area, is there a doctor that you can recommend that does X, a specific thing? They'd be like, you know, Dr. blah, 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 you know, took really good care. They want to hear about the care part of it because they want to know that they're being taken care of too.
Bingo. Yep. I mean, that's, you know, and it is, I just keep saying, it's like such a beautiful thing what I have seen happen on social media with a medical practice or this medical community, where patients, right, become then your best advocates. They are your champions on social media. And they're the ones who are, you know, who are commenting, they're sharing your content, they're tagging people in the comments. This was my doctor, or this was my surgeon, right? But I'm also seeing that conversion where then it's moving into messages and saying, I want to, you know, schedule an appointment for my father-in-law. You know, I want to schedule an appointment. I mean, I've even seen a surgeon have people say, I'm scheduled for my surgery on the 25th and I can't wait to get my life back, right? Like, this is happening, you know, on social media. And it's, you know, it's all through this conversation that starts with relevant content that attracts people to who you are, but it's making sure that you're discoverable. And right now, the way that we're using social media, right, we're searching for this stuff on social media. It's like keywords are so important now on Instagram, pretty much on any platform, versus hashtags. I mean, hashtags still work, but it's, you know, these keywords in your content that you want to make sure.
And YouTube,
your content.
Holy cow. Second search engine right there.
Right. The second largest search engine. Absolutely. And so, you know, if you've been creating video as part of your content strategy, right?
Yeah.
Start putting it on YouTube and start, you know, creating shorts where, you know, now you're within that second largest search engine and you're being discovered there. So, yeah.
Wait, so I want us to talk a little bit about the industry, because in this specific niche, because I think it relates a lot to other small businesses. And small businesses are, I think it's like under, I'm going to say this wrong, I think it's like under $28 million in annual revenue. So let's just, there's a high level from the SBA, okay? That's what a small business is.
Right.
And so what I think is fascinating about this conversation is that with these physicians and doctors, they understand the value of when they have their own practices and they have ownership in their firms, that they need to do this. Right. And even though they're super technical, they went through like all the med schools, all the things, and then they're like, and then maybe they worked at a really, you know, big hospital or something like that, and when everything else was taken care of, they showed up to do the things, you know, to take care of the patient, and then now they went off to do their own thing. They're still associated maybe to the networks and everything because everything's tied through, let's say, insurance or whatever it may be. But for them to be semi-independent in a way that now they have to take on more responsibilities of the business side of it that they didn't really recognize, but now, and you're seeing in your clients that they're in, that they understand that they need to work on it. It's not a optional thing. It's actually a non-negotiable thing that is part of their budget allocation. Can you talk a little bit more about how someone that is so technical, but because they were able to switch the hat on leading their own practice, how they understand that that is part of the day-to-day operations that they need to get better at?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you're so right because I mean, here's this, like I said earlier, this industry that for so long was based on, especially if it's a specialty based on referrals, right?
Yeah.
Or insurance companies saying, here's, a list of our preferred providers. So you just kind of, go down the line and in, way back when, call and see if they were accepting patients, right? You knew absolutely nothing about them, but you kind of trusted your insurance company or you trusted your primary care doctor to make that recommendation. Now the tables have turned, right? As I said, it's us, the consumer, that's in charge. And and we've created these communities online that trust what we have to say. And so if you're, in this case, a physician and you've got patients who can speak on your behalf, share their stories of success, right, of treatment, of their experience, and and then you're seeing this person kind of similar to you having that same disorder and needing the same treatment, and then seeing this person come out on the other side, walking again or whatever that is, right? You're going to trust that versus your insurance company saying, here's our list of physicians, call and
Yeah.
see if they're accepting, patients.
They
So,
transformation.
yeah, it's like, so, and that's what content allows you to do.
Right.
So you've got real people who are sharing real stories. That's the difference now. That's it, that's what's happening. And you're building community. So these doctors, whether they are in private practice or, they've invested in their own facility, or even if they're still in a practice, that is hospital based, right? That is a practice. You are your own brand within that overall brand. And there is no reason why you cannot create the visibility for your specific, practice and brand. There's so much that you can say about your specialty, your expertise, your credibility, how the patient stories. It creates such great content. And as I said, and then, the conversion part of it, what I'm seeing happening just on social media and how people are responding to that tells me, this community needs to be there for people and patients and for themselves. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. And for me, I love what I do because I get to help them. And again, it's that 20 plus experience that I've had, from the corporate world that I'm able to bring to this. Again, I'm just not someone who calls myself a social media expert, or a social media guru or a social media manager, that just posts content or just looks at the tactical side of things, right? This is an end-to-end like strategy, right? This is
100%.
everything. This is it is, you have to have the wind behind your sails to propel you forward
Oh,
in order to
is this the yacht club we're talking
yeah,
about?
can you tell?
The yacht club is coming through, bros.
But I love that analogy because it's so true. It is so true. If you don't have
Yeah.
that wind, you're going nowhere, right?
Yeah.
And that is like, there's no better analogy on explaining social media. If you are not taking the time to, to just, like I said, to know your message, like really know that, and then build a strategy, that takes that message and informs your content. And also, of course, the fundamentals, right? That audience, it is very important. You have to know who they are because that's going to tell you what platforms you're going to be on. It's also going to tell you how many times you want to post or the type of content features you're going to use to share your content on that social media platform. There's so much that goes into it. And only people that know that, like myself, who have that experience, can really do that. I am not bashing or taking anything away from people who have done really well on social media.
Yeah, but it's annoying when they're like, "Oh, my
But
16-year-old." I'm like,
yeah,
"Get out of here!"
yeah, you
Like, you
can't.
just basically like put everyone else's credibility down who's been in this business for
Right,
ages.
right.
Like, there's a craft in this whole entire
And
thing, and there's a
it's
reason why we drive the whole
right,
entire nation to do a
right,
certain call to action
right. And it's
in
like it's
advertising.
right. And and it's just keeping you
It's
in
crazy.
that small space of
Yeah.
posting content, just looking at it as that end user versus looking at it as, I shared this on my Instagram yesterday, but it's like, you are a business owner. Act like it, right? I mean, like, let's get you out there. You need to be out there. And even, the most introverted people, there is a way, what better way to, be out there than by like creating relevant content and sharing it. Um, I just want business owners to know, and and it's even your tech founders, right? It's not a scary thing to put yourself out there. You have to be visible, otherwise you are going to get lost in the
Well, here's
sea
the
of
thing with
everyone
tech
else.
founders is if they're not doing like, yes, I can see how they can be really uncomfortable, or sometimes they're like, oh, this is like not my thing, whatever. But like you say, you're a business owner, so like act like it, right?
Right,
And if you can't go through the trenches yourself, even like a first season kind of thing, go through the cycle, how the hell are you supposed to hire? How are you supposed to delegate? How are you supposed
right,
to review and judge and do the thing that you're supposed to be doing at that position, right?
right, right,
So if you can't even understand the value of it, if you can't understand their ups and downs, how you're supposed to help them with their career and their performance reviews and all that kind of stuff, because at the end of the day, you're really trying to stack up, creating that department because it's part of the business. So if you
right,
want to be growing as a business and you're not just having an easy exit, and being acquired and out the door, then
right,
fine. Right.
right,
But most of everyone who is either, I call it like a house. You're either selling to the front door, which is your storefront, the people who are passing by, which is that top of funnel discoverability. If they walk around, it's
right,
like a stranger, like, I didn't know this existed kind of thing. Then there's the side door. That's your talent acquisition.
right,
Well, you don't want to be attracting people who don't get you, and they
right,
can't, they're not gonna, you want to be working with really great people, and then you have the back door, which are your investors. You're
right,
selling
right,
all the time, and you gotta know what your story is. And even if, you do become bigger, you have to understand how to be working with those people and how to work together and collaborate so that, maybe the next person who, gets on board, there's a better handover than none.
right. You bring up such a great point about that because it is so true. See, like this isn't just about like for your business and selling, a brand or service, right? So that front door, like you're saying, they're seeing you, they want to come in the storefront and,
Yeah.
they want to engage and maybe walk out, purchasing something. There is that side door where, yes, you do have to attract talent, right? Like I think that, and that's why I think like, LinkedIn is such a great platform for B2B marketing because yes, you can, you're talking about your business and brand and selling there, but you're also attracting investors or people who may want to, potentially consider working with your company, right? So there are other people besides people that you're selling to who are looking at you. Again, it's that visibility across the board. You need to be there. And if you're not speaking about your message clearly, right? All you're doing, as I said, is just posting content, and it's not making sense to anybody. And that's why you're saying, well, I can speak to everybody. But no, you're really not attracting or getting people in those 3 doors, right? Into your business through those 3 doors. So I like how you talked about that. Yeah.
And like, I wanted us to double click on something that I think only we can really share with our corporate advertising backgrounds too, is, I don't know how else to say, and I don't know why this word is coming up, but in my head, so I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
But when we're in advertising, we know when we already know the news before the news is out. And so whether that's a news announcement that is through literally the newspaper, literally through social media, it doesn't matter, wherever the syndication actually is, or the distribution channels, whatever. We already knew what was going on months, maybe years in advance. And so when we're working on the strategy side of it, whether it's like the brand strategy, and then we have all the different strategies, all the strategies, for everything that business can invest in and do on the regular, or something a little bit new. I want us to touch on how to actually think and detach as an end user versus being a marketer and looking at it without the emotions. But it's ironic because all we do is about emotions because of the psychology of buying. And so when we work with brands, we are really putting in so much work about the persona. We're really understanding how they're feeling. We're really targeting so many different things, so the content is resonating to them. And I want to double tap on this because when I was mentoring at Techstars, one of the things I would say to a CTO asked me, he goes, a co-founder CTO, he goes, hey, see, like, what's advertising basically? And so I would explain it to him, like, he was doing some security thing. And I explained it to him, it's like a love letter. And I said, we're eating food. And I was just like, wow, this eating Indian food at the time. I was like, man, this samosa's really freaking good, this curry. So anyway, so that was, so we're chatting and yip yapping. And I'm like, okay. It's like a love letter. It's like how much love that you have with this food is calling to you. It has your attention, you feel it, and you remember it, and it's a part of your day. But then I kind of translate a little bit different. It's like when you're walking out in the city, let's say you take public transport or you're at the airport, wherever you are, there's everything happening. But somehow this one little thing, this out-of-home billboard, or it's on the bus or something, just catches your eye. And for all reasons, all the different things that are in the world, that thing catches your eye, and you're like, what the heck? And you don't even think about it. It's so subconscious, and that is an impression. And because it called to you, it talked to you directly as if it's one-on-one, and you giving so much love in this love letter to this one person because you know them so well, you love them to death. And that is kind of where it's like, wow, they're really speaking to me. They're really understanding because they know me. And we do so much work behind the scenes in strategy, whether it's brand strategy, social strategy, digital strategy, whatever strategy, we do so much work to understand who we are talking to because we did not go in bed with them to understand about them. So we do it in a very professional way to understand who our target audience is. What are they listening to? Are they a Taylor Swift fan? Or they're like, yo, I really love, I don't know, whatever. And then, or like even what airline they are flying on, what kind of loyalty, are they on loyalty rewards? What kind of credit card are they using? All these different things as if you're in literally a very deep relationship with them so that you can talk to them. And so when they hear from you, that the messaging doesn't feel like, where did this come from? Like, get out of my face. It's almost like you were able to have a safe environment with them that you understand how they're feeling in that very exact nanosecond. And when we are in advertising, it's, okay, the word's coming out now. I feel like it's like a shepherd to the herd in the sense of like when we do nationwide campaigns, you know, we're telling them to do that one CTA. And even on an old school, you know, TV ad, what's at the last of that commercial ad, that 30-second or 60-second commercial ad? It's a vanity URL. It says get a Chevrolet.com or whatever, you know, like, you know, it's whatever the vanity URL is of the campaign for them to remember that, because that's the last thing people remember, because their attention span goes all over the place. And so what I want to get to is that when we do all of this work to get it right, we nail down the messaging, we understand them. And then so then we have that data point to be able to tweak it for next time. And what you're talking about on the organic social media and where the game has changed is that a lot of these startups are like, well, see, I don't have all this money, this ad budget to do all that. I was like, you don't need it anymore. You use that money for retargeting the people who you do know, who has engaged with you, who has went through the ringer of discoverability in all your top of, you know, your funnels, right? To get to your website and engage with you in some shape or form. Retarget those people, because you don't want to spend that money anyways on people who might be barely lukewarm. That's like in freaking Argentina while you're in freaking Paris. Like, so,
and yeah, no, and that's, you know, and I had mentioned it earlier, and you know this term too, that's that, you know, that push pull marketing, right? Like, you know, you're just pushing out content. That's advertising, ads. You're just pushing out this message, you know, and hoping, I mean, yes, you have an idea of who you're targeting and who the message is for, but you're hoping, you know, they say like it has to, an ad has to touch somebody 7 times before they finally, you know, convert, right? So it's like, you just keep seeing the ad. And yeah, and even if it's a retargeted ad and, you know, oh yeah, like Stuart Weitzman keeps sending me, you know,
top of mind. Why is they popping up on my Spotify?
That's everywhere. Right? Yeah. Like I'm ready to pull the trigger on a DFF, you know, a Diane von Furstenberg dress, because I've been like, you know, it's like now all over my social media. But, you know, so that's great. That's great if you have budgets. And this is a big reason why I started my business and wanted to, because, you know, I worked with big brands. You know those brands. I worked with Target. I worked with, you know, Walmart. I worked with Olay. I worked with all these big brands. Loved every single minute of it, right? But it's like, I want to help the little engine that could back then, which was, you know, small businesses. And yes, we have this free platform called social media, but just because it's free, and again, just because there's billions of people there, right, doesn't mean that you're automatically, you know, going to have people start coming to you and believing what you have to say.
And this is where the game changes, going back from what you started with Gary Vee, right? Is that based on organic social media, the algorithm and the social media platforms and what is being searched is based on how you put it out there. And you can do that organically, and you can do that A/B testing there before you spend the monies, you know, to do more of the advanced kind of, I would say advanced at this point. But and participate, all of these business owners.
And even now, you know, Instagram just announced a couple of weeks ago that you can test Reels. It's called Reels Trial, right? You can do a trial of your Reel, not to your followers, right? So, you know, because if you have these followers, and I hope it's a community of people that, you know, are very targeted. They want a message from you. But if you're pushing out, you know, multiple posts a day, and you don't want them to see multiple posts and kind of get that fatigue, which does happen. You know, it's like, I'm not a believer in, you know, posting multiple posts a day or sharing content, you know, in multiple posts. But if you can actually test that reel to, you know, non-followers and see what the response is. So I love that Instagram is giving you that opportunity to reach new audiences.
But wait, let's double down on that, because that is a reflection of the framework that already exists for people who are on like book tours, for example. They're talking about their same book, right? Their same speaking points, but to a different room as a keynote speaker. Like if they're doing their keynote speaker at Google, for example, it's very different if they're talking to like a real estate conference, for example.
Yep. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So your content, right? So it's like, and that's another good point too. Gosh,
Sorry.
I could go all over the place with this, but you should
Yeah.
not be sharing the same content that you're sharing on Instagram and just cutting and pasting and putting it on LinkedIn. You know, or
100%.
like, but you would
Newbie
be
mistake.
surprised how many, you know, how that
Yeah.
happens. Unless it is a platform that is similar or gives you, you know, because you can look at your data, you can look at your audience and see who they, especially on LinkedIn, you
Even
know
just
who they
tweaking the
are.
caption, though.
Right. So it's like optimize that content
Yeah.
for that community, for that audience, right? But it is, you can, I love the ability to be able to, you know, to, yeah, test your content. There's ways that these social media platforms are trying to help get your content in front of new audiences. And
Yeah.
it's not always by spending money with ads. Yes, you might want to, you know, make an investment in, I mean, you know, there's people who really hate boosted posts doing it as part of their strategy. And, you know, there's some that really like it. It just kind of depends, or it really depends on what your goal is.
But that's
right?
what I mean of
So,
detachment.
you know, that's another,
is that we don't even
yeah,
think
it's
about
like,
that stuff when we're actually in the business
right.
side of it. But someone could be toggling that decision that is we wouldn't even spend the time or like we wouldn't spend the decision making time for that because we already know what are the options in
Right.
the game
Right.
to be in order to play the game.
Right, right. Here, you're in charge of that game now. And, you know, just simply know what your goal is, right? So, I mean, it's so important to know who you're speaking to. I mean, that to me, and
Yeah.
going back to
And who
like,
you want to.
right, like really, you know, the whole advertising thing, it was the personas, right? Like
Yeah.
how we create the day in the life of, I mean, I still
Yeah.
refer to that. And
100%. And even tech, we call it the ideal customer profile, the profile, ICP. And it's the same verbiage, it's the same thing. Just know who the heck the customer is supposed to be.
Right, right. If you, you know, I always say, like, you know, picture this person that you're having coffee with this person.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Get to, you know, you want to know a little bit about them, right? But really get to know them. And when you do that next coffee that you have with them, you can tell them a little bit more about what you do and why you're relevant for them. And then the next coffee,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
Then they
Rose,
start
wait,
saying,
hold on. This is the thing though, because a lot of people in B2B, they're like, oh, everything is relationship, sales and everything. And it takes all this time in between if, you know, their schedule works or this and this and this and that. Maybe they're going to go to the conference, but then they got food poisoning or something. And you're banking so much to see that person. But at the same time, in between, there are a lot of things of like, for example, the 7 touch points. There's still other ways to be able to connect your story in nurturing, in lead generation,
right,
in ways that is not on your time, it's on their time, and giving them the buying decision power for them to do the research to be able to shortlist you in the top 3 vendors they want to hang out with. Right? Because then that goes into the actual sales funnel.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, people have a choice, right? So yeah, help them find you, help them discover you, nurture them. You keep nurturing them, and then they make that decision. They'll make that decision. Right? Yeah, it may not always be you, but maybe eventually something else happens and then they come back, right? So it's like, you know, but you've got them from the start, and you just keep, you know, you keep delivering that relevant, valuable content to them. And, you know, eventually things happen. Or if it's, you know, them referring somebody to you, I mean, that happens often too. So yeah, it is a beautiful thing. See,
I want to wrap up with this part of, I think is because you hear it all the time. And I feel like you can articulate this the best. And when you see the small business owners, because they are, and when we talk about small business, is 28 million in revenue and less. Just kind of put that in context here. Whatever that number is a multi-million dollar number. And when you saw the light bulb moment in your prospects and clients, when they're like, oh shit, I need to prioritize this, not necessarily in their day, but I need to prioritize this in my business, whether it's them or, you know, someone that they're able to, that they've hired, you know, full time to be able, or maybe, you know, they're kind of like, hey, can this now be a hybrid role? Okay, now let me change that job description of this person who is maybe dealing with customer service at the moment, kind of thing, or whatever it may be. Yeah. What is the light bulb moment where they're like, oh shit, I have to change the way how I'm doing business and showing up as a business owner, because they have so many things happening. You know, they're really all over the place. They don't know what tomorrow looks like. Every day they're choosing their adventure, and they need to know where the hell that wind's coming from for their sail. For them to set sail, right?
Right.
We're in charge of territory.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what are some things you heard in that moment that was like, for them, they're like, wow, I get it. It's not even they get the whole thing. They get that they just got to do something different and not put that at the bottom of the list where it just kind of, you know, slides off, and they're like, well, maybe I'll try again tomorrow. It's like, no, I'm actually getting on this Mediterranean diet now.
Yeah. I am so, thank you for asking this question, because this is something else that I'm super passionate about, and how my business was built. Yes, we're, you know, a builder of brands and businesses on social media, but how we're different is we develop, you know, comprehensive social media strategies that are in support of your business goals, right? So, you know, I'm sorry, but I just don't think anybody else who isn't of that sort of advertising marketing background can actually, you know, correlate the two.
It's a black hole for them.
So that is probably the most important thing, whether it's, you know, they need to grow revenue, they are seeing, you know, their competition get bigger, right? And their revenue getting smaller. And then
on that, then they do tactics that looks like Me Too. So how is that even going to work for them? It's just a waste of time and discussions about being just like them.
And it just keeps them on that hamster wheel, that circle of, you know, frustration.
People know who the original Kmart is. They're going to know who the...
Right. It's like, you know, you have to, if your business plan, if you have a business plan, your strategic plan for your business, right? Marketing has to be a part of that plan. And then social media is a part of that overall marketing strategy, right? And social media, what you do on social media also is in support of that entire business plan, your business goals. I'm not saying that social media is going to, you know, generate an additional, you know, $20 million for you, or, you know, you put a revenue goal against it. But what you're going to see is this, you know, this engagement, this building of your community, and this engagement start happening, and this conversation that starts happening through this connection and the support that you're receiving there. And as I said, with, you know, the medical community and how I've seen it happen in the direct messages, right, on these platforms where people are saying, I'm coming to see you on the 25th. That to me is conversion. That is, you know, I can't put a dollar sign against it because I don't know, you know, what they charge for, you know, an initial visit, or, you know, what a surgery costs or whatever. And I don't need to know that. I don't want to know that.
Yeah.
But it's like, what I'm seeing is this engagement happening and this conversation that's saying, I trust you and I've converted in this way. So yeah, I mean,
that's what we look at in marketing. Trust.
Yeah, and it's like, and that is what's unique about it is it's these, it's business goals. Even someone who is just starting out their business, right? And so they have been operating based on referrals. Someone
Oh
said to
yeah.
me,
Oh, I love this one.
someone said to me the other
Yes.
day, she was like, it's time for me to start selling. Like it's
Wow.
time for me
Okay.
to start developing my business.
That's what she said.
I can't just rely on referral. I mean, and she was like, and so Rose, I need your help in, how I can do this on social media.
Yeah.
She understood it now takes this mindset of I am a business owner. I need to market my business. I'm not in it to grow followers on my Instagram account. So yeah, it's, I would say it is always business related. And that's why I love what I do, because that is what makes it so unique. And that's what we learned, all those years in corporate. I mean, there was always the goal, right? There were ways of measuring that performance. And, I'm sorry, but growing, to 100,000 followers in 3 months is not a strategy. It just isn't.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thank you for asking that.
Oh my God, no,
I
thanks
love talking
for
about that.
sharing that. I'm just like, because that point of what you're saying is that so a lot of folks who are in accelerators, for example, or incubators, they rely very heavily on intros. They rely really heavily on networking referrals and
Right.
stuff like that without really really being the original customer you actually want them to be. And so this is a different shift in strategy and thinking. I'm not saying like that's not okay. You definitely, if that's the
Right.
way how you're
Yeah,
turning the lights
yeah.
on and everything,
Absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.
But what we're talking about here is the one step level advancement to really try to create a sustainable business where revenue's coming in that's truly in a way that you can grow by number of employees, and grow by bringing in more of the volume to be able to have more of a predictable baseline, I think, as well, maybe is a better way to put it.
Right.
For cash flow and for, to understand what you're dealing with there. So I think that's kind of where, like, because no matter what, even if you were invested in and such, you still need to pay them back at one point.
Right,
Investors are debt investors.
Yeah.
And so, you're still going to have to figure that out. If you ask the room, it's like, who needs more customers? No one's going to say, shucks.
Yeah.
Me.
Right. Right. Oh, you would be surprised. I have heard some business owners say, I don't need to be on social media because I can't afford any more customers right now. We're too busy. It's like, well, God bless you.
Yeah, business
Like,
101.
yeah,
Here we go.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway.
Rose, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your
Oh,
insights
thank
and
you.
expertise. This was a very vibrant conversation
Oh,
that I think
like
is
it always
super
is with us,
valuable.
see?
I know.
Right?
And I'm just like, I'm so excited for us to be able to share this with everyone. And I think as long as people are challenging themselves, even like 1%, like, am I even putting 1%, into thinking about my business in social media? Where, like, have I even searched myself and see what does that even look like, kind of thing?
Right.
And then also even just like, have I even thought about it 1% of how much I am using social media as an end user versus at all of any experience as doing it from a business standpoint. And then understand what that relationship looks like in that dichotomy, because if you can't set a code of conduct for yourself, the lines get kind of blurred. And you're like, oh man, look at my social
Right.
media usage time. It's like, well, that's one metric that your phone is telling you, but there's another thing if you're doing it for your business.
Right.
So,
Yep.
which that gets blurred.
And that's, wait, one last thing. I love what you
Yeah.
said about that, like on, on social media. yes, Google search is not going away. I mean, for a while. With social media now, right? If you're putting articles on LinkedIn, if you're sharing, thought leader content in articles, those are coming up in your search results, on Google search. If somebody, types in your name and, what comes up on that first page, your social media channels will come up on that first page. So, imagine Googling yourself and seeing just kind of one entry, like nothing there.
Yeah.
That, that's just not good. I mean, it really
I love that you're pulling this, because that is exactly what personal branding is for professionals. Right. And all the professionals that are here on LinkedIn, your personal brand is your professional skill set and your experience.
Right.
And using the distribution channels to do the heavy lifting for you is how you become a KOL.
Right. They're there. Utilize them to your advantage and, and to your benefit. There is a strategic way of doing it. You need to approach it that way. But in the long run, it's only going to help you. Like 1,000 times better than what you're currently doing now. So, that's how I want to end. Like that is the message. So
thank you, Rose, again for your time. Thank you. Let's do this again. This was so much fun.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. We have to think of our next topic. No.
Got it. Love it.